docket for today. I'm going to be talking a little bit about AI across the software lifecycle. I'll be talking about how we've added AI natively into our platform, particularly around Spira today. I'll also be showing some of the functionality around AI that is in Rapise as well. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about how we built this. So when I give this talk, typically we're primarily talking about how you can use AI to improve your use of our platform, improve software testing, development, and so on. But I'm also going to spend a little bit of time of how we architected it. So if you are looking to build AI into your solutions, it can act as a reference point. So it might be useful as well. And just to mention, we are using AWS as our AI engine. So you may see powered by AWS on some of the slides. We are strategically partnering with Amazon on a lot of this new AI functionality, which is quite exciting. First of all, about me, I've been a programmer for about 10 years. Since the age of 10, for about 35, 40 years. Not that young, sadly. And if you click on that link, it takes you to some of the video games I wrote when I was 10. They're still published online and run under an 8-bit emulator, for those who are a bit geeky. And the picture on the side was generated using AI. I thought it was appropriate for an AI talk. It came from Joel from Planet. He was one of our partners in Australia and the AI guru. If you look on LinkedIn, you'll see one of the threads that I lifted it from his thread. So it was so cool to be here. So I do travel a lot for work and conferences, and sometimes it feels like that. Sometimes it feels not like that whatsoever, but that's okay. A little less dangerous, maybe a little more fun. So thanks for being here today. One thing to mention, if you are watching the recording principally, if you are watching the recording, it's probably out of date already because AI is moving really fast. The functionality we're going to show you today is what's live today. Come back in a few months, it'll be new functionality available. So this whole area is moving really fast. If you are watching the recording 6 months from now, know that this was what was current at this date and time. So let's talk a little bit about AI across the software lifecycle. I mean, AI is being used everywhere in all businesses and industries, but I want to focus about AI in the software development lifecycle. So first of all, by now you should be all familiar with the DevOps, infinity loop. This is something that's been around for like 4 or 5 years. How we develop software using modern, CI/CD practices, planning, creating software, testing it, verifying it, packaging it, releasing it, configuring it, monitoring it, and the feedback goes back into the plan, giving you that infinity loop. And the question really is, for me, is where is AI going to, in that life cycle? Well, it should be everywhere. And yet it isn't currently. If you talk about AI to most people in the software development space, a lot of the focus on the creation. Without going too much into tangents today, people are using AI to do vibe coding. There's some great videos on the Visual Studio Code channel where they can create an application in 30 minutes using some simple requirements and Visual Studio and some LLMs, which is pretty amazing. There's been Copilot in Visual Studio, Copilot in GitHub, Amazon Q, Gemini. Everyone's been focusing a lot on the creation side of it. How do we write code faster? How do we build apps faster? And so on. But that leaves out the rest of this life cycle. And unless you add AI to the rest of the life cycle, you're not going to get the value and the throughput and the improvements and the productivity you're hoping for. In fact, McKinsey did a study where they said that until all these different blocks in the loop, all different colored blocks, have AI in them, all you're doing is creating new bottlenecks. If you ask anyone in the testing space, where was the bottleneck before AI? It was usually in testing, even with Agile, even with CI/CD. So therefore, if you turbocharge the creation and the development part, but you don't turbocharge the testing and the other parts, all you've done is created a bigger bottleneck. So you have to add AI across the life cycle to get harmony and throughput. So I think maybe now time, Kendra, for a quick poll. I'm curious, where is your team right now with AI in its work? How much are you using AI? So if we could just launch that poll for a second. We're going to say 45% are just exploring, 20% are running a few pilot projects, 14% are actively integrating into their workflows, 16% are not considering it at the time, and only 5% show AI is a big part of how we work. So that's interesting. So I would say, 5% are, it's a big part of how we work, 40% are actively integrating it. Everyone else is really in the exploring, piloting, or considering. So that's 45 plus 65, 75, 81% of you or so are not really using it in large scale yet, which is interesting. It ties with what we've heard anecdotally. We heard from, I was at Amazon reInvent last year, and one of the comments, particularly a US joke, was that Amazon's running more pilots than Delta right now, the airline. So it just does seem like everyone's doing pilots. So, but it's good. So I'm glad everyone's coming to this webinar today to be informed and see how we can use AI more effectively. So moving on, Let's talk about some of the general predictions before we get into the application live stuff. So first of all, you may have heard this last year. Google CEO said that over 25% of new Google code is generated by AI, and Gartner is predicting that 80% of independent software uh, vendors will integrate Gen AI into their software by 2026. And I should say one update on the first one. In the news recently, Google is saying that 70-80% of all Google code is generated by AI, and they're predicting by 2026 at Google, 90 to 100% of all code will be AI generated. Now, not generated solely by AI. Obviously, there'll be people involved with that, but AI will be touching almost all the code. And now, they're obviously Google and a lot of the big hyperscalers are able to do this more quickly than some of the customers that we serve that are in more regulated industries, maybe a bit more cautious, like banks, insurance companies, and so on. But I do believe that where they go first, everyone else will follow in the same way as CI/CD and Agile and a lot of the trends we've had over the last 20, 30 years, whether it's internet, cloud, mobile. You look at any trend, the big tech companies go first, everyone else follows. So I do think that is the direction of travel we are seeing. Another interesting metric that I'll credit this to Fujitsu, my friend Andrew Palmer in the UK. I'm not sure he's on the call today, but a great friend of mine. He's been doing a lot of great AI research. If you follow him on LinkedIn, a lot of fun stuff. One of the things that really blew my mind last year was the traffic to Stack Overflow developer collaboration site decreased 70% since ChatGPT has been released. So, and that was last year. It may be lower even than now. So people are not going to some of the traditional sites to get code snippets, best practices. They are using AI, Gemini, Q, Copilot, and others in their Cursor in their IDEs to generate code. So definitely, there's been a sea change away from humans assisting humans to write better code, and fortunately to AI. And Planet, the guy, this is the company where Joel works, who did that great James Bond um, picture of me, has said they've seen a 300% increase in code quantity and a 400% decrease in code quality. This is in their state of testing report from 2024 from 2023 to 2024. So what we're seeing is more code, worse quality, more of it, and obviously if you're using AI in your platform, AI is inherently more difficult to test. It's less deterministic. So we're making the problem worse, it seems like, in terms of actually having quality code, quality systems being delivered. So with that being said, where is AI in Inflectra today? First of all, this is our platform. For those who may be new to Inflectra, we provide a full suite for project lifecycle management. Spira Plan is our marquee platform. I'll be showing you this a little bit later on. And that manages everything from programs to portfolios, requirements and tests, the entire software lifecycle. There's two cut down versions for teams, which would be Spira Team, and then a even more reduced version for QA only, which is Spira Test Management. We've got additions to integrate with our products with other tools called the data synchronization. We've got an extensibility framework so you can write plugins called Spira Apps. And we have Spira Capture that's an exploratory testing tool. We also have Rapise as our test automation tool. And that's our platform. These are some of our customers. So if you're not familiar with the company, we work across major industries. The main thing you'll notice is these customers are all working on mission critical systems, whether it's banking, insurance, energy, clean energy, manufacturing, telecommunications, mission systems, defense, government, or life sciences and healthcare, and other industries as well. These are customers where systems cannot go wrong. So the idea of someone vibe coding a key app that runs your telco is probably not something we want to see right now, maybe for some internal apps. So when we work with these customers, we want to figure out how can we get the best advantages of AI so we can get the productivity benefits, but make it safe for customers that work in these kind of industries. Before we get into the AI portion, just again to quickly recap, Spira Plan, which is the first tool I'll be showing, it's a lifecycle management system. People using Spira Plan get 30% faster delivery than using other tools, 40% less defects, and 30% less risk. And that's before we have AI. And then we integrate with all the popular platforms, GitHub, GitLab, Jira, IntelliJ, Azure DevOps, you name it. We've got integrations for it as well. And then the other tool I'll be showing you today is our Rapise codeless test automation tool, which is now, again, been enhanced with the power of generative AI. And that can test anything from web, mobile, desktop, mainframe, even AS400s, shout out to mainframes, web, Android, iOS, Dynamics, Salesforce, Oracle, you name it, ERP systems, CRM systems, Salesforce, ServiceNow. We've got the ability to test those apps for you. And with AI, we can now do it 5% faster, 5 times faster, not 5%. So lots of really cool functionality in both products, but now with AI, even better. So we had this functionality. We've had these great tools around for a while. We are today introducing publicly. This week we launched it. Inflectra AI. That is our new embedded AI capability. This builds upon some of the earlier AI features we released last year and the year before for Spira. If you may have, those who've been playing around with our tools, we had some Spira apps we released to be able to introduce AI functionality quickly to get feedback. We've taken that feedback from our customers, and we are now launching a fully integrated and fully managed AI service that is now an add-on to your Spira platform. And before we go into more details, let's run a little poll. Let's run the poll. Why are you interested in using AI in your tools? So if we can run that poll for a sec. So why are you interested in using AI? So the poll, we just launched the poll. There's 5 questions. There's 1 question, 5 answers. Why are you interested in using AI today? To get work done faster, to automate tasks, to get better insights, to keep up with competitors? We're not sure yet. So let's go. We've got 60%, 65% replying. We're going to give it about 5 more seconds. So 5, 4, 3, 3.5, 2, 2.5, 1. And we're 84%. That's pretty good. So, and this, as they say, the scores on the doors. The number one is 67% to automate repetitive QA and testing tasks, which is great because I've got some good news for you. To get work done faster, 57%. That's pretty awesome too. So those 2 top use cases, we've got some great functionality to gain better predictive insights. That's an area we're working on. We haven't got that in today's demo, but that's an area of big research for the company. Keep up with competitors and not sure yet. Okay, great. So thanks for doing that. I'll share the results. You can see the results there as well if you're curious. Okay, so with that being said, what is Inflectra AI? So Inflectra AI is our new AI capability, and I'm going to show you live today on the Spira platform how we can generate from user stories and requirements. We're going to generate test cases, test steps, tasks, BGD scenarios, and risks. That's what we do today. As part of the future roadmap, we're going to be adding more functionality for creating things. I'll talk about some of the ideas we have. Beyond that, we do want to then get into the insight business and talk about how we can improve insights. That's future functionality, and also some agentic workflows, which is the latest buzzword. I think someone wrote online yesterday on LinkedIn, if I hear agentic one more time, I'm going to scream. But using AI to be able to do things as well as create things is basically what we're talking about. So how can we use AI to automate some of the tasks as well as create content? So we're going to be using AI across the Spira platform for both, simplifying and streamlining tasks, generating insights, but also improving the ability to do QA in an intelligent way. On the Rapise side of things, I'm going to show you today how you can use the AI functionality in Rapise to take the test cases, we'll generate manual test cases that we'll generate in Spira, turn them into automated scripts, how we can generate test data, talk about some other use cases that we can do. We've also got functionality we've just released in the webinar we did, I think, a week ago, where Rapise can also read test results and get insights. And we're also going to be using Rapise more and more to do autonomous testing using some of the large action models. And we'll talk about that as well. So that's going to be the scope of today's webinar live demo. But before we do that, just want to take a second to talk about our partnership with AWS. We've been a customer of AWS for about 10 years. We host one of our Spira cloud instances on AWS. We have multiple regions we support, so EU, Canada, Australia, Asia Pacific regions like Singapore, Philippines. We also support in Canada, and we will be rolling out support in Dubai and the Middle East when those regions become available and needed by customers. So we do use AWS very extensively for our hosting of all of our platforms. We have become a partner of theirs, and as part of that, we are doing what's called co-build, where the Amazon team has been working together with our development and R&D teams to really build the functionality both quickly and safely. And we'll talk about safety in some of the later slides. when you use Inflectra.ai, we want you to know that you are having a company behind the scenes that is responsible with using AI, understands your data residency and data privacy requirements, and is making sure that the AI is safe for use on mission critical projects. So this is the stack that AWS provides. We're using different layers of this stack in our platform. Principally, we're using Amazon Bedrock. We are looking at potentially using some of the other infrastructure like SageMaker and potentially integrating Q Developer down the road. Haven't done that yet. Our focus of really of our current functionality is in that middle tier using Amazon Bedrock. One of the things we've been found very useful in Bedrock is we do have lots of different models. So this is the range of models you can use for any of the AI functionality, which covers any use case you need. For the Inflectra AI we'll be demoing today, we're actually using a mixture of models from Amazon and Anthropic. We're using Nova and Claude, and I can talk a little bit about why that is. But we have also access to a wider range of models too. So as we start to look at doing things around a chain of thought and potentially more autonomous testing, we can look at other models from other providers as makes sense. And the other thing I've mentioned is that one of the things that people have told us is they love the functionality of AI, but they are worried about the cost and performance. In our earlier release of AI last year, we let the customers connect it to their AI accounts, and it would then draw down on the amount of tokens they have. We recognize that's not very predictable for clients that want to be able to lock in, their users using the functionality and not worry about how much it's going to cost them. So by using some of the Amazon models, we are making AI incredibly affordable so that all of our customers can use it and benefit from it without worrying about usage. That's been a really important part of it. And so Amazon's been really great in giving us that high performance, high throughput, low cost. And we are using Amazon Nova for several of our features. So let's talk about where we are. So phase one, which was the really functionality we had last year and the year before, was the plugins and bring your own license. So using Spira apps, you could connect Spira to a Bedrock account or an Open Azure account or an OpenAI account, and you could use it for AI functionality. That meant you had to manage the models, you had to handle any safety issues, make sure that there were no attempts for prompt injection or any kind of cyber attacks against it. You had to set the accounts up, you had to manage them, and you had to pay for them. So that meant you had to manage usage and make sure that you had enough budget to cover that. It was also meant that the experience with Spira wasn't native, it wasn't as fast or as integrated as we like it to be, and our ability to innovate quickly was slower than we'd like than if it was a native functionality. So phase two, which we're rolling out this week and today, is native Inflectra AI. That is now a SaaS feature, fully available on all of our cloud instances. We are using the Amazon Nova models primarily. We are using Claude in some regions. And that's an interesting point. We do respect data residency. So if you have a Spira account that is hosted in, say, Canada, the LLM itself is also in Canada. If you're using a Spira account hosted in the EU, it's also going to have the LLM hosted in the EU. Same thing with the other regions. And unfortunately, the Amazon Nova models are not yet available natively in all regions. And so behind the scenes, we're actually using Amazon Nova in the regions it's available to give you the best cost and performance. In the other regions, we're currently using Claude Haiku, which is one of the Anthropic models. Behind the scenes, it's different model, slightly different results. To you, the end user, no difference. And then as Amazon makes Nova available in the other regions, we will transparently switch those over. No change on you as a user. Nothing different has to happen. Behind the scenes, it will be the same. It'll be to the end user. We will take care of that switch over. The benefit is that you don't have to worry about managing any of that. We just get better cost and performance with Nova, but we didn't want to prevent people in those other regions using it to date, so we are launching it with a combination of LLMs. And as we add more use cases to Spira, we will add additional LLMs because we're using Nova, I think Lite or Micro right now. We may decide to use Nova Pro or Premier depending on the use case. So depending what you're doing in our tools, we will dynamically select the right model. And that's the other major benefit we have over the original phase one functionality. With the phase one functionality, if you wanted to do 10 different things with Spira using AI, you would have to connect one model. And that meant if you were doing something complicated, it would use an expensive model. If you're doing something easy, it would also use an expensive model for no good reason, just because it was easy to configure one model. With the native functionality, every feature is a different use case. Every feature can use a different model, and we can dynamically manage that behind the scenes. So it allows us to get the best performance and the best cost for you, our customers. We're also using a lot of native Amazon services as well. Let's talk about the architecture briefly. This is, again, for those on the techie side. If you want to screen grab this, this is how we're delivering Inflectra AI. There's two things I would think of interest here. If you're looking to add AI to your platform, one of the challenges you may run into is that you may have an architecture that maybe isn't always designed for that. So if you look on the left-hand side, for those who know us, you know that Spira is a end-tier web application. It's not necessarily cloud native. Designed that way because we have customers using it both on-premise and in the cloud, and we have committed to customers that we give them an on-premise and a cloud version. Unlike some of our competitors, we haven't gone fully cloud because we know customers want the choice, and we believe choice is an important thing for our customers. But we want to deliver cloud-native functionality for AI. And so what we've done here is we've been able to have the best of both worlds. We have natively integrated into Spira Inflectra AI as a completely different architecture. It's completely serverless, completely microservices based, using the modern Amazon stack, using CloudFront, Global WAF, S3, Lambda functions, serverless Lambda functions, CloudWatch, Amazon Secret Manager, and a DynamoDB. So everything on the right is 100% cloud native, 100% serverless. Everything on the left is traditional end-tier web. When you see the demo today, you won't know the difference. It's completely transparent to the user. So if you're going to build AI and you're thinking like, I can't afford to modernize my application, I can't afford to rewrite it, but we want AI functionality today, you don't have to. You can have the best of both worlds. So I'd like to just point that out from a how we built it standpoint. We recognize we want to get AI quickly with best practices. We didn't want to have to slow down. You can do that. We were able to do that. And AWS has been a great partner helping us with that. Okay, so that's what we have today. That's what I'll be demoing in about 2 minutes. Future state. What are we going to do next? So after today's demo, if you like what you see, the next stuff we'll be doing will be some additional low-hanging fruit. That's going to be additional use cases using the current functionality. So generating more things from other things, like generating requirements, generating potentially test data, lots of different use cases in the app. We're still trying to figure out which are the best use cases, but it'll be largely similar functionality, potentially giving users the ability to give feedback on what we've created and allowing to iterate, but largely the same kind of functionality. The second thing we want to do, though, is what's called RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, and that's where we start to feed in your Spira data into, not the model, it never used for training, but goes into the system so we can use it for insight generation, so we can generate insights. Phase 2 will be what we call these transformational breakthroughs, things like using Amazon Q, potentially trying to get more insights from other data sources like Salesforce, Dropbox, Freshdesk, bringing more data into Spira from other systems that you have so you can have better data. And the third thing will be agentic AI in Spira using Bedrock agents, so you can start to automate tasks. Like you're in Spira and you want to, automatically create a GitHub action, maybe do a code review. How could you do that in Spira? So allowing us to do not just create content in Spira and have insights, but actually take activities. So this is the areas we'll be focusing on in the next year. But again, this is all future state. I'm going to grab a screenshot of that. We can go ahead in a second. And all right. So one thing I want to mention is about pricing. Before we go into the demo, which is the next slides, we have a launch offer. So you can start using Inflectra AI for just $1 a user per month for the next 60 days. So in the next 60 days, you can go in, if you're a cloud customer, you can go and add Inflectra AI to your instance for just $1 a user per month. But here's the really good part. If you do it in the next 60 days, we will honor that price for the entirety of your current subscription period. So if you have a 1-year subscription and you've started it a month ago, so you've got 11 months to go, you will get this price for 11 months. If you have 2 months left, you have only 2 months. Now, someone did ask us, what happens if I renew my subscription early to get 2 more years or 3 more years? We will honor that too. So now the next 60 days are a great time to renew, extend, and add. After 60 days, it will be going up to a higher price of about $9 a user a month with a graduated curve if you buy more users, like the rest of our products. So it's still relatively affordable, even at the full price, but we are discounting it to get people on board to generate value as quickly as possible. And this is unlimited usage, right? You can generate as many test cases as you want, as many requirements as you want, as many scenarios, as much as you want. No token worries, no worry about usage. It is a flat fee, similar to the way ChatGPT works, similar to the way Gemini works if you use those tools. It's a flat subscription. We're monitoring usage, obviously, but it's not going to be metered. So now is a great time to get on board the platform. So before we do the live demo, I've got one more quick poll. If we can launch the third poll, which is which statement reflects your current mindset about AI in software? So I'll share the results. So curious but careful was the winner at 53%, which for this audience, QA, mission critical systems, I totally get. Excited I'm all in, 23%, and then other people not so sure, a bit confusing. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so here we go. This is Spira right now. So for those who are familiar, this should look pretty typical. This is the Spira requirements matrix. I've just logged in to Spira here. Now, one thing I'll mention is if you already are a Spira customer and you want to use Inflectra AI, you have to add it to your account. Once you've done that, there are two things you have to do. I'm just going to show you those first because people often forget. And we are, again, believing in responsible AI. That's a key part of our mission. And so as a result, we have made this 100% opt-in. So what that means is if you want to use Inflectra AI, you add it to your account, you go to your general settings under system administration, and you have to enable it here, Inflectra AI. That will turn it on at the system level. Now, that doesn't mean your users will see it. You have to also turn it on at the project level or product level. So the same thing we'll go into the library information system. That's my current project. And if I go there, I'll go to general settings over here. And you would go in here and you go to the details for the project. And it's one of the settings at the project level. So you have to enable it at the system level and at the project level. And that's important for two reasons. One is many customers want to be careful about this, but also you might want to try it out. Second reason is you might want to try it out as a POC. So you enable it for the system, but you only enable it for your POC projects. So that way you can roll it out slowly across your organization. Another customer was telling me that they're very interested in trying it out, but they only want their experienced testers to use it because it will improve their performance. They don't want their junior testers using it on a new project because they want to have the experience in writing good test cases manually before they just start using it. So really up to you, but we're giving you control over where it's deployed. It is not turned on by default, and it is opt-in at the system level and the project level. And right now it is available on certain pages. So we're going to go into the requirements section. I'll be showing it there. It's also in the risk section, the test case section, the task section. As we add more functionality, it will appearing elsewhere. And so if we go into the requirements section, you'll know it's available because you'll see this new icon in the top right in the nav. That's Inflectra AI's icon. It has a cute little animation when you hover over it. And that tells you that Inflectra AI is available on this page. So for today, we're gonna show you how you create things from requirements. I'm gonna do one myself, then I'm gonna ask for a volunteer to suggest one. So let's start with the first one I'm gonna create, which would be, so I got a new requirement. I'm gonna write it in the user story format. As a customer, I want to be able to transfer uh, transfer funds between two accounts. That's my requirement. I could also put in a description, more information. The user is accessing, accessing a retail banking system. Could do that. And I'll put two bank accounts because it could be two other accounts. So that's my user story. Now, I can go into Inflectra AI, hit the icon. It's going to show me what tasks, what activities are available for this particular item. So based on this fact, this is a requirement, there's three actions I can take right here. Now, it is context sensitive because it's a requirement. It shows me these three. This requirement does not support scenarios, so it doesn't show me something else. If I change it to a use case, hit save, the icon changes. This type of requirement does support scenarios. The scenario is down here. Because of that, you will now see a fourth icon appear. So it is context sensitive. Depending on what you're on in your role, it will know what you can do. So let's go ahead and do some things. Well, let's take this requirement and let's generate some BGD scenarios. So I hit the button. While I hit the button, you'll see these little dots appear. Oh, sometimes, and that's one thing with AI. It takes the information and it tries to create things for you. Sometimes it will refuse to do that if it feels like you're trying to do something that it considers unsafe. Let's try test cases. We have what's called guardrails in place as part of the Amazon AWS AI stack. And what it will do is it will attempt to prevent someone trying to use the tool to do something they shouldn't do. So, for example, we had someone trying to ask about making a birthday cake, and they thought that if someone was trying to use this to write recipes and thus use your account and to write recipes, not do testing, and it felt that was something that was not relevant. So there are guardrails in place. If you go in here and say I wanted the test cases to create a bomb, or requirements how I want to create a bomb, it actually won't let you do that. So there are some guardrails in place. I'll try different requirements. So if you ever see that message, it means that the guardrail has been triggered for something you've written. So let's see, it created some test cases. We'll try a scenario for something else. There's my test cases. I'm going to close the sidebar so you can see them a bit more easily. It's created about 10, no, yeah, 10 test cases. Each test case it generated is listed here, and it's a mixture of positive and negative test cases. So let's look at a positive case first. Verify successful fund transfer between the accounts. Let's go over here. There's my test case name, and there's my step. It's giving me a login and expected result, and it's giving me some sample data. Now you can then obviously edit that and change it to be parameters. In this case, it's a single step. Depending on the test case, it may, and the requirement name, it may create one step, multiple steps. It does that depending on the complexity of the requirement and what it feels is necessary. Let's try a negative case, insufficient funds. Let's try that one. Come up here. Another example, insufficient funds. And notice that in both cases, it's given us the AI generated. That's because any content that you generate in the system that's AI will be tagged as AI generated. So we know it's synthetic. Same thing with this one. And let's try again. Let's go back to my requirement. I'm going to clone the requirement and clone it. And I'm going to change it to not have a description. Let's see if that makes a difference, and we'll try to see how that works and see if that would generate a scenario for us. If not, we can try something different. So let's go back here, generate scenario. Yep. So sometimes when you give it too much information, it may be thinking I was trying to hack into a bank account, and so removing that makes it safe. So AI is inherently non-deterministic. It's creative, so it will depend on the requirements. So you may want to try different phrasings of names of requirements. It's gonna give you different results. So let's go down and see my scenario. It is now giving me three different BDD scenarios: one with an insufficient balance, one with an invalid destination account, and one that is the correct happy path. So we've got one happy path and two edge cases, I guess, non-happy paths, sad paths. So that's what the AI has generated for us. And if you take those test cases, we could do the same thing with this version of it. We could generate test cases. Now, the other thing we can do, we've generated test cases, we've generated a BDD scenario. We can also generate development tasks. Specifically for Spira Plan and Spira Team, it's more than just testing. In Spira Test, you won't have this feature. We can go in here and we can generate development tasks. So I want to know what might be the development tasks for building a bank transfer, functionality. Okay, there we go. There's some different tasks here. You can always click on these links to go directly to the task, or you can go to the tab and see all the tasks. Let's see. For example, we've got some testing tasks, error handling, authentication logic, create account balance update. So let's take one of these tasks. We'll go over here and look at it. This is the example of a task that's created. Create account balance, and this is the description. So everything it generates has a name and description, and it links back to the requirement. So this would save me a ton of time in manually building out the different tasks. But I can go one further. Because I'm on a task, there's also AI functionality here. I could go here and I could say, generate some sample code and unit tests. Let's do that. And let's say I want to do it in Java, so I'll do it in JUnit. Okay. So it's now going to take this and build out essentially a set of stub code that I could commit to my Git repo, and it will give me a sample unit test that I can put into my JUnit harness and run with Spira Team or Spira Test or Spira Plan. So let's go look at the code. I can click on those links, or I can go to the attachments tab and do a refresh, and we'll bring up both the code and we'll bring up the unit test just to see. And that's the code. That's the unit test. And actually, I want to see it with syntax highlighting. So rather than control clicking, I can actually click on it and it will, oh, actually, no, open it. There we go. I want to view item not open. So I'll view item in new tab. That's what I wanted. And now you can see it with a nice syntax highlighting. And same thing if I want to look at my unit test for that code, it's basically a stub class in Java. I can do the same thing with my unit test, go in here, and I can view that in a new tab. And that's going to be my unit test right there. So my unit test using the JUnit harness. So just to recap, I've taken a simple user story, I've generated a BDD scenario for it, I've generated test cases for it, I've generated tasks for it, and I've got sample code for both the implementation of the feature and of the unit test that goes with it. Put that into my Git repository, run it in my pipeline, and as they say in Britain, Bob's your uncle, and you're good to go, as they say in America. Now, what about risks? As my friend Shrem would always say, if you don't manage risks, risks manage you. So we have another feature we have, which is what about the risks with this feature? Now we're transferring funds between bank accounts. That doesn't sound very risky, does it? Yeah, it does. Yeah, there was a case of I think it was a data migration in the UK where I won't mention the bank name, but they did release a new set of updates and a completely new banking platform, and people could make transfers from one account that they owned to someone else's account they didn't own. People's wedding money was disappearing, all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So you don't want money in a bank transferring between accounts that you don't have access to. So we should be very careful about anything around bank transfers if we're building a banking app. So there could be therefore risks with this functionality. Let's think about what those risks could be. So I choose the button to identify risks. It's now going to take my user story and it's identified 3 risks. Incorrect account validation. That sounds a lot like what I was talking about. Let's see. What did it think about? Yes. So validating the correct account was used and that it was either a valid account and that they have authorization over that account. Now, that's a very valid risk. And then using the risk and notice it's AI generated, I can go in here and I can say, well, let's see, how likely is that? It's possible. And the impact will be, that's pretty catastrophic. So that's been given an exposure of 12. So with an exposure of 12, I probably should think about how I mitigate that. And I could go in here and add mitigations. But look, I'm lazy. This is AI, right? Let's see what AI can do for us. So let's go in here and we'll see generate mitigation. So again, context sensitive. It's right here in the application. Hit the button and it's going to generate some mitigations. And with all the stuff it's generating, whether that's code, whether that's tasks, whether it's mitigations or test cases, you as a human are going to review this stuff, edit it, change it. It's, again, take what it generates as a good starting point. It's not meant to be the ending point. Here we go. But here's, I think, a good 8 different mitigations you could use that would help you in this, reduction of risk around account validation. And it's got some ones here about error messages, validation checks, training sessions, logging mechanisms, auditing, multi-factor authentication, using ML models to find wrong details, review process, having 2 people do every transfer, dual account. So lots of cool ideas here. So in about 5-6 minutes, we've created for one user story, we've created 10 test cases, 8 risks, 4 risks, 3 risks, 3 or 4 risks, 8 mitigations, 3 BD scenarios, about 10 tasks, and 2 pieces of code. And I'm doing it quickly on a webinar. You could generate for that one user story, I could build out the entire plan for it in probably 5-10 minutes. Now, again, I've got to edit it and review it. But as we all know, it's much easier to take something generated and work from that than it is to, start with that blank sheet of paper. So we have found this really improves the speed and gets people get going with building these artifacts. Now, this is the current functionality. There's other use cases we support, like if you're on a test case that doesn't have any steps, you can also do the same thing. So if I happen to go to a test case that doesn't have any steps, I can click on it and the AI is available there. And I can either add steps or, and this shouldn't happen, but it does. Sometimes you have a test case without a requirement. How does that happen? I don't know. It does happen. And so maybe because it's a regression test that we missed, and you can reverse engineer a requirement from a test case. So we do support that use case and we can generate steps. So before we go into the Rapise functionality, I thought maybe it'd be fun if anyone could put in the chat window, give me a user story and we'll give it a shot. If anyone wants to if anyone wants to put a user story in the chat, if not, I'll try another. I'll make one up. I don't see one. I'm going to do it. I'll make another one just to show us one other one, and then we'll move on to Rapise. So another example of a user story that might be interesting is a more technical one. So for example, it might be, as a developer, I want to migrate from SQL Server to Postgres. And if I think I spelled it correct. Hopefully I spelled it correct. So a more technical one. So you can do the same thing here. You can go into the AI and say, okay, let's generate some test cases to cover how you do that. So we can do it for both business, more business feature type requirements, but also you can do it for more technical ones too. So we'll let that generate. I know there are some questions, so I want to make sure we get to those. So here we go. Verify successful migration with SQL Server to Postgres, data integrity, error handling, indexes and keys. Okay, let's look at indexes and keys. I hate indexes and keys. So there we go. It's given us a nice test we should run to do that. It's also given us some sample data as well. So That's a really good example of a detailed, more technical test case for a technical requirement. If I go back to it, when we're dealing with technical issues, risks can also be a key thing. So we could do the same thing. We'll just generate some risks for a more technical requirement. Oops, try that again. Oh, doesn't like that. Sometimes, again, sometimes with AI, it thinks you're trying to do something. It may think I'm trying to actually do a live migration. So one thing we have found with AI, and again, we are working on taking these use cases, is when people try generating things, we do have the guardrails in place for safety. If you get this message, do let us know. And let us know the name of the requirement. For example, we're actually tuning it right now. We have an update coming out tomorrow where we're taking some of the feedback. So it does have we've built strong guardrails in place to prevent you doing things that you shouldn't. So we've done test cases, we've done tasks, and let's move on then to the Rapise side of things. So using the Inflectra AI, I've been able to take a requirement and build up manual test cases like these ones here. I've been able to build up BGD scenarios, lots of different test cases with lots of different steps and sample data. But the one challenge will be, how do I take that and automate it, right? I want to be able to take this and do testing of it. Now, I can give this to a manual tester, which is great. But what about automation? So let's hop over now to Rapise, which is over here. And Rapise is our automation tool. For those who are not familiar with it, it's a codeless automation tool that can be used to take test cases, write test cases. And traditionally, you would use record and play, or you can go into any of the test cases that are in Spira, and you can, like this one here, and you can look at the objects like a login page, and you can drag the buttons and say, okay, I want to click on this and do that. So you can manually basically compose an automated test. So it's automated testing, but a human is creating the automated test. So that's what we've been doing. Now with the AI, we can go one step further. So using the AI dashboard, I can connect to my model and I can use the AI assistant built into Rapise to automate some of these tests. So let's say I have a manual test case, which looks something like, and we're going to be using this test application called Library Information System. It's over here. And it's the one that comes with Spira as well. And let's say I want to do something like, I want to log in with a username and I want to wait a few seconds and I want to log out. Just something simple. So log in with a username and password, wait 5 seconds and log out. So when I do that, it's going to look at the application. It's going to look at all the objects I already have identified, and it will build out my test. And it includes all the steps. Opens up the browser, wait for the login page to be available, login button to be available, click on the link on the top right, enter the text in the username and password fields, and then it's going to wait 5 seconds and then log out. And then you can take that and you can basically apply that, and it will basically apply it to your script right here, the RBL script. And that way, it will allow you to create automated tests really easily. So instead of having to go in and manually record or just drag and drop, it's basically building that test for you. So basically, if you go into the AI over here and AI dashboard, it builds out the test case. It looks like this. And when you hit the apply button, if I go back over here, that's what it should have done. It looks like that. So that's basically a set of actions it generated. And the other thing it can do, so it can build out my test for me. That's my login, that's my username password, there's my submit, and there's my wait and then log out. Now, what it can also do is it can also generate test data for me as well. So for example, let's say I want to do something different. I go into my chats and I create a different kind of chat. I can say, let me create a data table. Okay. And I want to generate a list of items. So this is meant to be a library. So I say, get me a list of books. So generating synthetic test data is always something that's time consuming. Let's go ahead and let's create maybe a list of 10 books published since 1999 that have the name, author, and genre. Because you need to have those three data elements for our test. That's what we need to create a book. And so it's using its early LLM that we're connected to generate that synthetic data. And that looks pretty good. So I can take that, it's generated, and I can run over here to my RVL, and I'll put it at the bottom, go back over here and hit apply, and hit append, and there's my test data. So I can now go in here, and I can then give that test data a name, books with genres, say, like that. And then I can then decide to take my test and I can then wrap my test. So the AI will let me generate these steps automatically, and it will let me create test data, and I can put these together and run my test through. And this test, just to prove this test does play, I can go over here, I can do play selection, and it's going to launch the browser. So it should launch, let me close that thing. It should launch Chrome. Running Chrome right now, it can do it on any browser. It's going to take that manual test case that we converted to automated steps, and it's going to run it through and generate a report. So that's using the interactive assistant in Rapise to do that. Now, there's still one step in the middle, which is I have to go to dashboard and I have to write something in the natural language. I have to go over here, right? And I have to write this here. I get this, I hit the button, and then it appears over here at the top. So there is a step where I have to write in natural language. Now, what will be really cool is if I could write my test in natural language to start with. Well, you can also do that as well. So if you have a test case in Spira that's already written in a natural language like this, in English, you can go into Rapise now and you can skip this step. Instead of using the dashboard, you go straight into the RVL, and there's a new RVL type for AI, and it lets you write the test in natural English, and there's no intermediate steps. And if you want to see what it's going to do, you go over to this column on the right, and you can say Show AI Panel, and it will show you what it would do. And there's the steps. So it's giving you a preview. And you can literally play this just like you would play anything else in Rapise. Play selection. It's going to open up the same browser over here. It's going to log in. And in this case, I'm not logging out. I've only fired the first step. So it just logged in for me. And there you go. So you can play just a section of it. You can play the whole thing. So you can use AI now to write the test natively. You don't have to actually even have the intermediate steps. So imagine that you can just write in Rapise, create a book with name Adam, I don't know, Gone with the Wind, like that, and it will allow you to do that. So you can write that natively in the tool, and it will show the AI panel, and you can have it generate. So it's super easy to do that. Now, there's one step further, which is this functionality works because what Rapise is doing is looking at the objects on the page. So it's looked at this page and all the objects that you've identified. So you map the objects on the page into Rapise using the learn function, and they appear right here. So we've got two windows. I'll just make it bigger for you. I've got some objects under it like that. Okay, so I've got a login button, a password button, username, and so on. So to be able to run, for this test to work, it has to have seen the object. So right now, for example, I haven't learned create book. So it actually wouldn't know, if I tried this, it would not know what to do because it would say can't find an object. So you would have to go in ahead of time, and you can using the recorder, you can do the traditional recording and you can learn the necessary things. So you can go in here, and you can go over to Rapise and you could say, well, let me learn the creation book management. So I go over here, I do control 2, control 2, control 2, and I would log in, I can get all the objects. So once I've grabbed all the objects and hit finish, Rapise is now ready to use those things. So anything it sees here, the tool is going to be able to understand to use. So it's intelligent. It looks at all the objects you have and looks at your instructions and it builds out the test dynamically. Now, if you've got any frameworks that you've built with more complex things like page objects, you've got global modules, it uses those too. So the great thing is if you've got things in your test that you've built, like we for customers building, a page for each of the objects where they have like a login page or order management page in ERP, and they've exposed all these methods like do create order, do create quote, do receive goods. It will use those framework objects. It won't go back to primitives. So the good thing is it is going to reuse all of the test logic that your team has built using the AI. Now, what if you haven't done that yet? What if you haven't got any objects? What if you're starting from scratch and it's a brand new app? There's a new feature called AI Robot, which goes one step further. Using the power of computer use and agentic AI, this can actually begin to test things where there is no actual object tree. It's completely AI driven. So this is a new feature using Anthropic right now. I'm going to show you this, and then we'll go to questions as I know we're running short of time here. There's so much to show. This will let you automate an application without any prior knowledge of it in terms of learning objects on pages. It's completely visual. That's why the icon is a little glasses. This is the AI looking at the page like a human and actually visually testing it. So let's go ahead and play this script. I'll play it, and you'll see it do something, and I'll tell you what it's doing while it's doing it, just to save a bit of time. So it's logging into a different version of this application. It's written in React. It's going to basically, all we're telling the AI is log in with this login and password, and we're telling it change the genre of a book from, I think it's historical fiction to detective fiction. And we're telling it to change it for the book Jane Eyre. We're not saying there's a login button. We're not saying there's a password button. We're not saying there's an edit button. We're not saying there's an update button. We're giving it business level. So again, this could be human generated or AI generated business level tests written in natural language or functional tests, log into my ERP, create a purchase order, that kind of thing. It's going to figure out autonomously how to do that. So in this case, we've told it to change the genre of a book. It's figured out there's a book navigation. It's figured out there is a book called Jane Eyre, and it's going to, and my hands are off the keyboard, no hands. And it's going to edit it and it's going to save it. Now, when people see this demo, they go, "Oh my goodness, this is doing exploratory manual testing as a machine," and they're kind of scared. And I would say, well, first of all, that there's some truth to that, but also this is a very simple app. Like it's if I could tell any of you to do these exact same tasks. You could never see this app in your life before, and you could figure this out. You could go in here and you could log in. You say books, click on Jane Eyre, edit the book. So the AI is able to do what you could do because again, it can understand this very basic app. If I gave this a more complex real app, like imagine I gave it SAP or Oracle or Dynamics or Salesforce or any business line app, it would struggle because it wouldn't know the requirements. It wouldn't know how the app's meant to work. It wouldn't necessarily know how to do it. It's going to get better and smarter. So right now, this is still good functionality, but it's quite slow as you saw, and it's quite expensive in terms of tokens. It's also good at small apps. Now, where we're going as a company, though, and you start to put the pieces together, is imagine we fed this AI all the requirements from Spira and all the test cases, and we gave it the documentation and the screenshots. We told it basically how let's say CRM or Salesforce works, not just Salesforce, but how your Salesforce configured is set up to work. Then it could start to do that. And so it's just like if you took a manual tester that never seen a Salesforce before, they wouldn't know how to test it either. And so the AI is the same. It's like an intern, very qualified intern, but it's basically learning. So part of the reason we're going to be doing a lot more AI data analysis in terms of like RAG and taking data from the Spira side and feeding into Rapise is because we realize that data we have, the requirements, the documentation, the screenshots, all the information about your application is what will let AI be much more effective. And so that's why having the Spira and Rapise work together is going to be key for AI to scale and really deliver these kind of benefits for real applications rather than just a very simple demo app, which I'm showing today. So that is the area we'll be going in. We're going to be using the data in Spira to both automate productivity tasks, but also make Rapise much more intelligent and automated for the automated side of things as well. So we're almost at time. So let's run over to questions, maybe Kendra, if we can jump there.
So first let's start off with, can you update an existing test case and can it handle CAPTCHA?
So two questions. So in Spira, let's start with Spira. Can you update an existing test case? The answer right now is no, you can't. It generates new test cases from a requirement. It can augment things by taking a requirement, adding steps to it. Sorry, test case, adding steps to it. It can take a requirement and add scenarios to it. It doesn't update an existing one. That is one of the things we've heard from some customers. And so if you have, again, feedback on that, that is something we'll be putting into our backlog. Again, this is the first version. The idea is you'll see more options here. Also, you may notice this looks a bit like a dialogue, but it isn't a dialogue. It's a series of buttons, but what we generate looks like a dialogue. That was intentional because the functionality we're going to be adding will be things like, oh, thank you for generating those test cases. Could you redo it, but in this slightly different way? So we recognize that that's going to be what people will want to do next. And for CAPTCHA, Rapise automation can, using the AI robot, can bypass CAPTCHA, yes.
Okay, fantastic. So this is another sort of two-parter question. When the AI is generating content options, is it looking at just the RQ header or is it also looking at the detailed description to generate content? And they added, for example, if I added AC in the detailed description, will it take that additional information into account when generating content?
Yes, right now we're using the name field and the description field. So if I go back a second to the this, we're using this top part here, which I'm highlighting, and anything in the bottom part here. So stuff here. We're using both these fields. The plan beyond that is to start to use some of the other fields like type, status, and other meta fields. Right now, and maybe other rich text custom fields. Right now, we're only using name and description, but we are using description.
Awesome. Next question. The test cases are, in parentheses, always AI generated from scratch, or there's any chance to make the AI looking to my test repo to find / suggest what could be useful or changed?
Currently, it generates new each time. Part of the plans and based on feedback will be to do what you just described. Yeah, take what you already have and be able to use that.
Next question. Is it possible to generate from 2 or more items and in parentheses, generate a requirement from 2 test cases or generate mitigation from 2 risks, ...
No, not currently. Currently, it's on the detail page. It does it for one. The plan is to add it to the list page. It doesn't exist. So when you go to the list page, like requirements list or test case list or any of the list pages, you'll notice the icon is gone. But the plan is to be able to do things like, check these boxes and go, it would appear here and say either generate test cases for each of them or potentially generate test cases that apply to all of them. So there's different permutations depending on the exact use case. But yeah, we were not doing it currently for multiple, but that is part of the plan.
Can we take the manual test cases created in Spira from Rapise and create the script directly?
Yes. Yeah, there is a way. I wasn't showing it in the demo just to keep it simple, but there is an option. If you have a manual test case, there's an option to turn it automatically into an automated script. Two ways of doing it. You can either in Rapise, there is actually a way to see the manual test case. So if you go to a test, I think I have one that has manual. You see your manual steps here. These are manual steps in Spira that come in from Spira. There is an icon in the toolbar that will turn this. See that little icon? It's hard to see. It's a little chip icon with the word AI. It's on the right hand side of the toolbar. These are the manual steps if there were any in Spira. It will basically take those manual steps and turn those into automation directly. There's also a way using an image. So if you don't have this test step inside Rapise from Spira, you can also do it from an image on the screen. It will read the Spira paste. But the easiest way is use the load manual test case from Spira and then this little icon button thing that you see here. So hopefully that helps.
So someone wrote some requirements require context from related requirements. Is this supported?
Not currently. But again, part of the plan would be that it will be able to look at your requirement here and be able to then read the associations and pull those in. Now, some of that we can do. Right now, without getting too technical, we're using basically very clever prompt engineering, which means we take data from Spira, send it through a prompt and send it to the model and get back. Once you start doing a lot of relationship tracking, you might want to start giving that data more proactively so it's not having to pull that every single time. So that's why we're looking at potentially using RAG to be able to store some of these relationships in a vector database that allows us to do this much more efficiently. So once you get into much more of this relationship analysis, we need to have RAG and vector database in place. So that's part of our R&D. So we'll be pushing the limits of what we can do with prompts, but we also simultaneously are having a parallel R&D track to implement a RAG pipeline within Spira as well. So there's a long answer to say we'll be able to do some of it in the short term and more of it in the long term.
So someone asked to please repeat how the subscription goes. So it's the $1 a month for first month, and then what next?
Good question. We have a web page. Go to Inflectra.com, go to products, go to Inflectra.ai, and scroll down over the nice images, which are very nice, and scroll down past the other stuff, and you'll get to the pricing. So what we're doing is we're pricing it by concurrent user, and it is tied to your Spira level. So imagine I'm a 10 user or 20 user Spira customer, 20 concurrent users. The current price will be $20 a month, and that will then go up to $10 a month, which will be 200. Now, notice as we start to increase, the price does go down by user, so it won't be 10 times more as you go up the higher price tiers. So there is an efficiency. So it is, though, a significant price difference. So if you are interested in it now, get it at the promotional pricing. So instead of it being, if I'm on Spira 30 users, I can get it for $30 a month as opposed to 300 a month. And if I buy it now, I can get that for the lifetime of my current subscription, and I can extend my subscription as well. So there's definitely ways to save money. This is for 2 months just to get people using it, get feedback, because we'll be adding more functionality based on those early adopters. So I would say if you're interested, like what you saw, if you're on this webinar, you probably are an early adopter, sign up for it, add it to your subscription, give us feedback. You'll get the functionality that you've asked for, and you'll get a good price. And then when this goes to general availability or general release 2 months from now, that's when you'll be able to people will be paying more for what you've already gotten. So you get the benefit of a lower price and being able to influence the direction of it. So it is generally available, just to be clear, but we are giving promotional pricing for the next 2 months. till July, well, actually, till July 1st. So it's
So can the AI use metadata like time estimates, versions, etc., and give you insight in your planning and in parentheses, future feature?
future feature, yes, current feature, no. So it can't do that today. That is part that kind of stuff is part of the plan for sure.
So we are a little bit past time. Did you still want to do a couple more questions, Adam?
I mean, I can run. I've got time, and for the recording, it could be good. If there are any questions, happy to finish those
Yeah,
off.
we have a few more. So
Okay.
is it possible to create test suites / plans for testing?
Not yet. The functionality currently is from a requirement, create tests, tasks, BDD, and risks. From a task, create code and unit tests. From a test, create steps and reverse engineer requirements. From a risk, create mitigations. Those are the only use cases currently in place. However, we will be doing other use cases. So there's definitely, in fact, it's summarized here, basically, but we will be doing other things. So right now, the answer is no. If it's not one of those use cases, the answer is no. But there are plans that we will be adding more use cases and more generation options as we iterate functionality. Oh, and I do have one other mention for those who are still on the call. Because this is a serverless and cloud native feature, we're not tied to the monthly release cycle of Spira. So we are releasing the AI functionality at a faster cadence than Spira. Spira is updated every month with a new version. We're currently on 8.10. The AI is because it doesn't require any outages or downtime. As we add functionality, it is going to be available in between releases. So the AI is going to be improving at a faster rate than the rest of us, or more features than the faster rate than Spira itself.
Does it support cross-browser testing?
So, well, Spira, it's all irrelevant because it's just creating content. On the Rapise side, yeah, everything that's generated in Rapise is cross-browser. So any of the steps are cross-browser. The AI here is all cross-browser. We have an abstraction layer, and this has nothing to do with AI. We have an abstraction layer that abstracts the underlying browser engine from Rapise. So it could be Edge, could be Chrome, could be Firefox. Maybe IE, but no one's testing it anymore. It could be another browser option. Like it could be a flavor of Edge or an old version. We've got version management or Safari or Opera. Any of those we support. We do have an abstraction layer, so all the tests that are in Rapise, whether AI or non-AI, are always cross-browser.
Does it also support testing functionality, for example, computation?
Yeah, I mean the Rapise in general does support that. You can do it's got a lot of functions for doing mathematics and it's got lots of utility functions. The AI will generate there's a more general AI assistant which I didn't show. So you can use the general AI assistant to help you write code in Rapise. So it's general chat. So you can go in here and say, how do I, add two numbers or together, I guess, and it reads our documentation, knows how to do things in Rapise, and generate samples. So it's pretty good like that. So it's a general assistant too. So it's got some options here how you can do more general things. How can I open a file for reading? And when there's functions in Rapise for doing that, it will do that too. So the Rapise side of things is a bit more advanced in terms of the chat interface. It can do more general assistance. We are going to be adding in Spira. So while it's doing that, we can also go into Spira. The plan in the future. So there's a sample code. So you can also go into Spira, and right now we don't have this, but what we're planning on doing is when you go back into any page, we will have the AI available to give you help documentation. So one of the use cases that we've identified as being a generally useful feature would be instead of going in here and saying, what's my documentation, and then, searching for it. People are lazy now with AI. Having the chat interface basically say, how do I create a requirement? That's the next piece will be AI will be available on every page with documentation to do that. And then the next step with an agentic AI would be create 10 requirements for me with these names, and it would do that. So, where we're going is having a lot of general utility features in Rapise. What we have right now are very specific around the key use cases, but we recognize that having the interface that'll do some of this automation in Spira is going to be just as easy as having it in Rapise. So, can't do that today in Spira, can do that today in Rapise. The plan is to have that available in both.
Okay, fantastic. And I just want to end a Q&A by saying that we got a great comment saying thank you for their fantastic presentation, and they will definitely be sharing with their colleagues. Do you have anything else on your plate, Adam, that you wanted to share?
No, thank you very much for attending. It was a great webinar. I mean, I'm sorry we ran over. We had so much to show. And again, the Inflectra AI is now available in general release. Feel free to sign. The quickest way to get hold of it, if you want to play with it today and you're not sure about, adding it to your account and stuff, don't worry. Sign up for a trial. After this, just go to the website, Inflectra.com, sign up for a Spira plan or a Spira team trial, choose the cloud option, which is the default, give it a URL. When you get to the sign up form, just say, I want to add Inflectra AI. It's a checkbox. Hit that button, away you go. Your trial will have AI running. And so if you want to play around with it in a safe way, that's in my opinion, the fastest way to play around with it. And then obviously, if you like it, you can add it to your production instance or stuff like that. But I know that may take time with approvals and payments and purchasing. So have fun and give us feedback, I would say. As you can see, it does give answers. Some of it doesn't. Some of it will say, I can't do that. Let us know that, because we're trying to make sure we tailor the oh, good question, how to give feedback. If easiest way is to email support@inflectra.com and or support ticket and just put in what you're doing. If you're going to do when you do that, please give us as much information as you can. What you were doing, if you can tell us what was the requirement name, what was the requirement description, and what it didn't do, we can then trace it back and reproduce it. Let us know the region you're in, because Claude and Nova do give different answers. And so tell us if I'm in Canada, I'm hosted in this region, this is my URL, I tried doing these things, this is what happened. The answers will be different if you try in Canada or the US, because one is using Claude and one is using Nova, and they do have different responses. They have different guardrails, and it's surprising. And if you really want to play around, sign up for a trial with an address in Europe or in Canada, sign up with an address in the US, compare the results. It's going to be interesting. So, or in Australia, or so it's interesting to see the results are a little different. Hopefully, that was some fun stuff to play around with. So, again, thanks again. Have a great rest of the day, everyone, and I'll see you at the next webinar.
See you next time.